Hello and welcome back to Satisfactory. My name is Volcata, and I am excited about today because today we are going to get our manufacturing up and running for computers. And computers are the last major obstacle that we have for the remaining milestones in the hub. Specifically the milestone that we need to unlock fuel, which will allow us to properly get our oil processing up and going on full scale. Because we need the power and we need fuel to be able to do that. It's also in the way of the last part that we're going to need for the space elevator, which we are down to one part. The second part that we were doing before is now done and is already delivered up to there. I actually built a conveyor running up to it, and it's needed for some other things like in the MAM and whatnot that are going to be unlocked and future products like I think in supercomputers and things. So this is a big deal, and that's what we're going to get to today. But before we run off, I do want to mention that I've noticed over the past 2 or 3 episodes that we've started to see kind of a stuttering in some of the visuals of the game. And unfortunately, I think that has to do with it being in early access, and there are a number of things that could be factoring into it. And I want to, over the next several episodes, make incremental changes to my settings in an attempt to reduce or eliminate that stuttering without impacting what you're actually seeing on screen. So even though I believe that it's mostly a problem in this game because most of the time we see stuttering when we're in high foliage areas, which unfortunately our home is in a high foliage area, before we start bringing the graphic settings down in the game, I'm going to start bringing down the quality of the recording software because I believe that the game is just eating too many resources during that point and they're choking out the recording software. And to be honest, right now the recording software is cranked up pretty high on the quality settings, probably much higher than this game requires because it doesn't have a problem with any other games that I record. So we're going to start backing that down first, see if we can get the recording software to demand less resources and maybe it can brute force its way through the slowdown in the game. And if that doesn't solve it, then we'll start bringing the graphics settings down in the game. But hopefully you'll never see a problem in the graphics or a reduction in the graphics in this. But just want to let you know that over the next few episodes, I'll be making tiny little changes and see if the episodes start to run more smoothly. All right, that's enough tech talk. Let's actually get to the area over here where we're doing the manufacturing for the space elevator. I want to show you kind of what our goals are and what we need to get the last part done, and then we're going to get into the train and head back to our manufacturing area to start on computers. So as I mentioned, the computers are necessary for the last part of the space elevator. And for the last part of the space elevator, I mean the last part to the space elevator. The space elevator itself is already built. But I've already started to gather up all the components necessary for that last part, which is the adaptive control unit. We need 100 of these. It's not a whole lot of them. And we already had the circuit boards because we started making those last episode. We have the modular frames now. And finally, we need the computers. We're going to start on this episode, and we need automated wiring. Now, 15 automated wiring for 2, that's 7.5 per. At 100, that's 7,500 wiring. And this is going to be our bottleneck for now because it takes 20 cable per wiring. That's 15,000 cables. We don't have 15,000 cables. So I've grabbed 4,000 out of storage, but as you know, we are manufacturing those at a very slow rate because we're not actually using them anywhere. And our copper area, if you recall, is very limited. So we'll gather those up over time. When we have all 15,000, we'll turn this whole thing on and it'll be fine. I also went ahead and made a conveyor belt to the space elevator, and I put a smart splitter on it so that the thing that we need the space elevator will go out that way and everything else we make off the manufacturer will go into storage. And, we'll probably end up using this maybe at the next tier of the space elevator to make subparts that don't go to the space elevator itself. And so we'll want them to be able to cycle back over to here. In the long run, this one manufacturer isn't going to be enough, but they will be for this tier for now. Because, this one is going to cover it all for us because we have so much left to do before we're ready to go to the next tier. And I mean, we have a mountain of things to do. We need to set up nobelisks at the steel area along with compacted coal. We need to set up AI limiters. We need to set up quartz crystal, quartz oscillators, and there's just a ton of things that we need to do, and there's other components that we need more of that we're making now that we're also going to go back and double up. So we have many episodes worth of things to do before we need to move on to the next tier of the space elevator, so we'll have plenty of time for that thing to work its way through. Also, you might notice I painted my train. Green is my favorite color. I love green and purple especially. And this, I've just sat around and ridden in this thing off camera while all going between episodes here. So getting to today's project, I've actually spent the past few days, actual days, designing and redesigning the building that we're going to build today for the computers. And it's because, you know, we had a lot of space to work with. I wanted to do something a little bit more interesting than just a simple, you know, rectangular building. And I know that the building is going to do double duty. It's not going to just be computers. So I wanted to kind of come up with an interesting design. And I've built several buildings and tore them back down because things that I envisioned just didn't come out well. And I haven't actually built the thing that I came up with as my final design. I did a little minor proof of concept, but today we're just kind of going to do it because, again, I've spent days designing this and I just want to do it. Oh, looks like the autosave has caught up with me. You can tell how much time I've already been in here doing stuff. So we are going to, of course, build down here. And we're going to take out the area, as we mentioned last episode. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do this in a time lapse, and I'm going to try to. But the building I'm going to make is going to be fairly intricate, and it's going to be hard to show everything it's going to do. We also want to double the height of this building. I'm kind of nervous because I know there's a train going to wrap around. And we're not going to put anything in the second story of this building today, but we know that we're going to end up doubling the height of it eventually anyway. And I'm going to want to run belting over it. So we're going to double its height immediately. And that will give us our kind of our room for running the belts over and maybe attaching them to the roof. And then that will allow us to know better where we're going to have the belts at and what height they're going to be at when they get out to this area, which will be our manufacturing hub. And that building, again, as I mentioned, is going to do double duty. Just jump down here for safely. Which will be for computers and for crystal oscillators, even though we're not going to be doing crystal oscillators for today. And I haven't really done the grand plan, how many we're going to need of each. But I'm going to build this so that we can have 4 manufacturers of each. We can revisit that later and expand on it if we have to, or make a second floor. You know, it will still be modular in design. But today we're only going to be doing, I think I said, 2 manufacturers. So there will be 8 manufacturers built. We're only going to use 2 of them for today. 4 will be for these products. 4 will be for the oscillators in the future. Now, there's an unknown in this build. I want to make these guys part of the build. I talked about last time that we were going to have a discussion with these guys about land rights and land usage. I didn't say I was going to kill them. I kind of implied it. But I came up with a solution where I think I can incorporate them into the design. Now, the unknown here is that I don't know if creatures will despawn when they're around machines that are powered. Now, if you're not aware, hostile creatures will not spawn around powered machines. But I don't know if existing living creatures will despawn. And that's something we're going to find out. So we'll find out when we get there. Well, actually, we probably won't find out until next episode. if they're still there or not. But this is going to be a pretty huge building, and I laid down the keystone here. Excuse me, sir, talking, so that I would know, where to start. But beyond that, I haven't done any of this, and I think I'm going to go ahead and try to do this in a time lapse, or at least part of it in a time lapse. The challenge to doing this in a time lapse is that when you're doing a time lapse and there's a static camera watching it, you have to be mindful of where that camera is, and you have to build kind of back to front, farthest point away from the camera to the front of the camera, so that you can see what I'm doing, as well as bottom to top. Because if we're going to do multiple layers, we need the bottom layers drawn out first, otherwise you can't see what I'm doing under the floor. This building is going to be fairly intricate, and I don't know how much of that I'm going to be able to show, or how much I'm going to go forward and backwards on it. This is going to be an interesting challenge, and I want to take on that challenge. So let's see what I can get away with. I'm going to set up, maybe a couple of camera angles, and try to do this as best I can in a big old time lapse. So yeah, I don't know. I'm putting it off because I know how challenging it's going to be. Yeah, let's just get started. Let's do it. Whew, what a bit of work that one was. Yeah, I knew that was going to be a lengthy time lapse. I knew that this building was going to be very demanding. And it was extremely challenging to do this in a time-lapse format. It was just challenging to build it even without the time-lapse. So that's why the time-lapse was pretty long. You know, I kind of just wanted to show you really how much I had to go through and what all went into this building. And before we get into the actual walkthrough and discussion about the building's functions, you probably noticed during the time-lapse that there was a little piece in the middle where I cut out the floor of the center of the building, and you could see the hostels below it. It was, I don't know how I can put this. It was a really bad idea. So the attempt was to create a menagerie of hostels in the center of the building. And it failed utterly and completely. And unfortunately, the real problem is that when you get even remotely anywhere away from this building, and I mean like probably even this far away, the hostels will warp back to their spawn below the building. So that was a ridiculous amount of wasted time. But it was only wasted in the sense that it didn't work. It was not wasted in the sense that we learned something from it. So before we go through this building, we're going to cut now, and I'm going to show you a little montage of some of the pain that I went through in the attempt to create that menagerie. All right, so I'm trying to lure these guys up and in. I wonder how many times I'm going to die doing this. Come on. It is not a good idea. Not a good idea. Hey, buddy. Ow. Oh, no. I want to poke him to anger him, but I don't think that actually works. I mean, angry already. Oh, yeah, he's hurting himself. Nope, nope, stay over there. Stay over here. Stop shooting at me and stay over here. Oh, now they're all getting in there. Woo! Woo, woo, woo. Hey, buddy. There you go. Woo! Woo! I gotta be careful about provoking them when they're too close to each other, because they obviously can hurt each other. Alright, they're all up here, so that's gonna lock. No, don't go up my ramps. Alright, stop shooting at me so I can do this. Oh, come on in. Oh! Oh, sneaky girl. Oh, no, no! I think I got one. Yeah, I got one. I think it's time to unlock this. Oh no. Are the other two gone? Oh. This isn't gonna work. They've returned to their space under the building. Oh my goodness. Alright, so just for the record, here are all three of them trapped up here and in their pen. I've died several more times, and every time they've reset, and that guy just murdered himself. Alright. I hope you guys sympathize with what that was. Oh, that was so unpleasant. Alright, so let's go through the walkthrough. Now, I did say before the time lapse that I was going to double the height of this building. You know, I decided to just lay out how high it's going to be, and we'll double the height later. So the building is kind of an orange with red and white striping. And if we look at computers, which are the things that they're making now, you can see that they are orange with red and white stripes. So that was why I went with this color scheme. And if we go inside, I did a full paint job of it, or mostly full. I haven't decided on what I want to do with the splitters and mergers. But take a look, we can run around here, and part of the idea was I want to be able to look down at the conveyors that were running around on the bottom. And if you recall, we kind of tried to do this with the, I think, rotors. And we had done a floor that was glass, but the reflection off the floor made it virtually impossible to actually see what was going on underneath it. So learning from that, I decided to try this open concept. And I think it came out pretty nicely. Of course, it required us to bring the machines up off the ground just to make it look a little bit better, because I wanted to be able to see them coming up on the lifts. But I like it. I like the way it came out. And, you know, we learned some things from this. You know, of course, we learned that we couldn't get away with what we tried to do in the middle. And I'm just exhausted from this. I'm just going to leave this the way it is for now. Maybe we'll figure out something to do with this. I don't know. Just not going to worry about it for now. So we learned some of the bad, but we also learned some of the good. You know, I went with this setup with the beams to kind of create a rafters scheme, and was able to run the conveyors across the top rather than creating a false ceiling. And I really like how it came out. This is wonderful. I'm definitely going to want to be able to do something like this in the future. And so, you know, we take the good with the bad, and then you have the facts of life. So let's power this up. Of course, it's only going to run 2 machines. And again, the other 4 over here are reserved for oscillators in the future. But we're only going to run 2 of these for now because that's all we have the materials for. Let's grab the power, and you can see we have a distributed power node here on the roof, or up on the rafters. And there we go. See all the stuff moving. This is so cool. I love this. I love this little walkway. I love being able to walk around them. But let's wait real quick here and see some product actually come out. There we go, our first fully automated computers. Not very spectacular, is it? One on the belt. So we have our quick wire coming in on the top, and then we have our output also going across the top back out. So let's exit the building real quick. I have a bunch more stuff to show you, so we got to be a little fast about this. All right, and as you can see, we have a little bit more organization up here, a few more walls. Eventually this whole thing will be walled off. But we have our overflow of our circuit boards coming up. And this is purely overflow. There is a smart splitter so that we make sure we have all of it going to the computers first. Any excess will come up here. And this way we can send them back home to go back to our warehouse. And we've already set up a couple more stations that will be able to accept it. And our computers should be coming up here. There they are. Hi guys. And we will be running them new stations. So I want to show off what I've come up with here. Let's go ahead and run that here, and run that to here. You can see that the computers are going to load into here, and the circuit boards are going to load into here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to actually share these stations. And right now we're not, but that's because I'm splitting up the tiering of the product. So eventually, once we have AI limiters being built over here, they will go into here with the circuit boards, and our oscillators will go into here. And I just kind of wanted to split up the tiering, and it's going to make sense in a moment. But let's wait real quick for that train to come back. All right, here it comes. All right, it's grabbing all of our new products. This isn't still idle because we're still not loading in the quick wire. But that's okay, you know, in the future it will. And we're going to ride this home. Okay, I did not expect it to take the loop. What did I do wrong? Oh! It wasn't supposed to be hub. It wasn't supposed to be hub center west. It was supposed to be home center. Oh, I forgot I renamed them. Where is it? Home Midwest. Okay, give me a minute here to fix this. All right, I think we're good now. It should be going to Home Midwest next. And we'll just take a little extra run here. Hopefully it'll do the loop, because I want to see it actually go the proper way. Excellent. All right, let's fast forward to home. All right, so here we are at home. As you can see, I've put a couple of unload stations over here that hopefully I set to unload. I did. Nope, that says load. Ah, too late. Looks like I got one of them. Yeah, I didn't set this one. Okay, that's all right. We can just wait for it to come back. In the meantime, let's head down here and we'll show you what we're doing. Now I've run some belts under here. And this is set up again for there to be multiple items coming down the belts. So what's going to happen is eventually we're going to have grouped products coming down the line. So that side is going to have the lower tier products. So things like the circuit boards, AI limiters, probably high-speed connectors, whatever we make down there. And then this will have the higher tier things like computers, oscillators, and supercomputers. And what they'll do is they'll come around here to a set of smart splitters. And they are staggered so that they will all go for the lower ones every other, and every other goes to the top ones. And it's really important the way you set these up. So we want circuit boards to come in. To the right will go out circuit boards. And then the center should be overflow. I hope I didn't get that wrong on any of the other ones. Okay. And this is very important. So we assume that this is going to be AI limiters in the future. So what we would do is we would set this right here to AI limiter on the right, and this to overflow. And what's going to happen is once the circuit boards fill up, they're going to come down to here. Well, obviously we don't want them to go into here. We want them to go straight through. Also, another important aspect to understand about the way smart splitters work is that overflow doesn't mean that the other directions are backed up. It means that it can't send to any other direction. And that's very important. If that weren't true, this wouldn't work. So even though there's room on this belt, if we have circuit boards coming down here, we don't want it being stuck because it thinks it has a valid space to send something, which is good because the smart splitters don't care about that. They'll say, well, I can't send it out that way, I can't send it out that way, we'll go through the overflow. So we can set all of these to overflow, and it will just pass right through, ignoring the lines that are empty. And then eventually they'll hit this merger here, which will go into a sink. And this doesn't work without a sink because, again, we can't have any of these lines back up because they're shared lines. All right, well, I think that covers this scheme. I know we're basically out of time, so one more thing we need to do before we go, and that is turn these on. We have all of the cables that we need now. 6,000 in there, 9,000, that's our 15,000 cables. All right, and so that's going to take care of all the automated wiring that we need. And it should give us exactly the amount we need to finish these. Of course, we still need the computers, but the computers are now set to come in, which I need to run up there and set that to unload. All right, we have computers coming in. Excellent. Also, we left our personal train back at the hub. So let's turn it on and it will come to us. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this run. I think we got a lot of good progress in. I'm so happy with the way that building came out. It was, it's a labor of love, right? It was a real challenge. I died a lot doing it, but you know what? You gotta experiment, try new things, and when you find something that don't work, then you know not to try them again. You find some things that do work, and you know that you can use those in future builds. So it's always good to expand on what you know and try to add more strategies and designs to your repertoire. So thank you very much for coming out. If you like it, be sure to leave a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, why not? It doesn't hurt. Press that little button. It helps a lot, especially for a small-time YouTuber like me. And definitely hit the comment section. I love hearing from you guys. I love talking to the people who enjoy the work that I'm doing. And your comments often help guide the direction of the series, so you have the opportunity to influence what you're going to see in the future. So thank you very much for coming out, and I definitely hope to see you in a future episode because, boy, we got a lot planned and a lot to do.